What's going on, fight fans? NEF 55 is officially in the books, and this is your post-fight show. Ryan Jarrell, Greg Williams here, and we have a special guest for the first part of our show here, Mr. Primo Bellarosa, the head coach and owner of Vision Quest Muay Thai. Primo, how are you?
I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. What a night for your team. 4-0, all
Yeah.
finishes. It couldn't have gone much better.
No, man, it was a great night. It was great to be in Bangor. It's kind of our hometown. You know what I mean? We're in Pittsfield. But as far as, local shows happening, Bangor would be hometown fights for us. So it was really great to have like a bit of a coming out party at home. It's and like you said, wins are awesome. Getting finishes is even better because that says that, we're really doing the right things. The other thing is each of my guys had adversity in their fights. And ironically, it was the same adversity that I had told them during camp they needed to be prepared for. So for me, the wins are awesome. The finishes are a little bit better, but getting through the adversity in each fight, making the adjustments, and then not just pulling out the win, but getting the finishes is really the cherry on top.
Well, I can tell you, I mean, right after the Ryan Sanders Sage Philippe fight ended, Greg and I looked at one another and we were like, that's it. That's fight of the night. Like, I mean, I'm sure that the Glory Shauna main event is going to be awesome, but that's fight of the night. I'm going to give them both their medals right now. And I'm glad I was right about that. How nervous were you though, when Ryan got buckled in the first round?
You know what? He got clipped. It was like 30 seconds in. And I had told him two things about this kid. One, he's tougher than boot leather. Like that kid is going to be there bell to bell. You know what I mean? You have to be prepared for that. He's going to be there, and he's going to be trying to win. And really, what I felt like his biggest threat was a big right hand. He's a strong kid, and I had a feeling he was going to throw a good right hand. And lo and behold, Ryan had his hand a little low. Ryan's a bit of a slow starter sometimes. And we didn't, with all the other guys fighting, we didn't have the warm up that we had wanted or that we would normally have. So he got a warm up, but not like a super good one. And so he came out a little slow, and Sage obviously didn't, and hit him with that right hand. At first I was like, fuck. And then I looked, and in the seconds of my reaction, on his way down, Ryan was already smiling. And I was like, okay, we're going to be fine. I personally didn't think that Sage had anything for Ryan on the ground. So as long as Ryan's wits were about him on his way down, I had a feeling, okay, Ryan's going to tie him up. He'll get back up. We'll be okay with it. And luckily it went out that way. But I kind of crapped my pants there for a minute. My butt puckered for sure.
Greg, I'm sure you have plenty to ask Primo. So what were your initial thoughts, after, Ryan did get clipped, and just how he came back and ended up getting the finish?
Well, first of all, I think that's so cool as a coach to just to have that moment when when you recognize that your guy just recognized he's in a fight, and that's what he came for. He didn't come, to do anything but get in a fight and show, right, everybody what he's about. We know he's got great cardio. We know he can be vicious, and but I mean, I think he leveled up a little bit in that fight.
Absolutely. And that was,
100%,
that was what I thought Ryan needed. Ryan, we've had a few fights together now, and he's done very well. But he needed like a get tested a little bit, being a fucking grinder, and have to get through it. And he got that. Sage gave
and have an opponent like Sage Philippe, who just would not go down. You got to give that kid so much credit, like you did, and say, but that was one of the craziest, it was back and forth, but I mean, Ryan was getting the better of him for a long time, and
that's what I thought.
Could not go down, man.
That knockdown happened. It was 30 seconds into the round. Ryan managed to get back up. He got pinned against cage, and he turned and got at it. To be honest with you, in a 5-minute round, I thought Ryan might have still pulled the round out, just by adding up, adding up, adding up. Even with the knockdown, maybe it was a draw. The truth of it is, I told Ryan he lost the round when he came back, no matter what. Because you can never tell how much the judges are going to say, okay, there was a knockdown. That guy won that round. Even if it's 30 seconds in and my guy does really well for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So I always say, playing towards my bias, if it's a close round, I tell my guys they lost that round.
Well, you don't have a round to give. In a
Right.
Fight,
my bias might
fight,
look into
you don't have any rounds.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
So, I just said to him, I was like, look, really close round. You lost it. You got to give me the next 2 rounds. We got no choice. We got to up the pace. You got to stay on this guy. Then Ryan went out, did what he did in the second round, was all over him. And then he sat down between 2 and 3. And I said, hey, do you think you can get the guillotine on this kid? And he was like, yeah, I do. I think I'm wearing him down, and it'll be there if I stay on him a little bit more. I said, all right, get out there, keep doing the same thing. We're going to, he's going to force the clinch. You're going to knee and you're going to elbow, and you're just going to stay on him. And when he gets you against that cage and drops his head down, that's where it is. Ended up happening in the middle of the cage, but it played out kind of how we had thought it would between 2 and 3.
And Primo,
towards the end of the fight. Yeah.
I thought that this was a really important fight for Ryan, not just to win, but to get a finish. Coming off of that last fight over Ali Zebian, that split decision win, for what it's worth, I thought it was a UD. I don't know really what the judges were looking at. It was a big win over a tough guy, but to get another one back to back after losing that title fight to Piersma, the big question that, everyone wants to know and see what's next for Ryan is, he's 36 years old. He's been fighting on the regional scene for a while now. That next step has to be in his next fight, right? I mean, what are your thoughts? What do you think we're going to see here for him next?
Man, call me. We're going to say yes. You know what I mean? Like, who do you got? We're going to say yes. With Ryan's experience level, we are not in the business of saying no to an opponent. We can't. You know what I mean? Like, we don't much care who it is. Obviously, I'd like it to be on a bigger show. Nothing against NEF at all. They have been fantastic in keeping Ryan busy and blah blah. But obviously, we'd like to step up to like a PFL or something. We don't care who it is. Like, if a big show calls, name who it is, or don't tell us who it is. We'll just show up on the night and we'll fight whoever you got. Like, we're not worried about it. He's ready. Put him in. The kid's exciting.
I'd like to get both of your guys' take on this little topic real quick. There was a fight that, a lot of people were discussing for many years here regionally at 155, and it never came to fruition. Now, this same individual won the 170 title for Cage Titans recently. Joe Giannetti, you're already saying no. You don't think it'll happen?
He doesn't want that fight. He doesn't. It's fine. Say whatever you want, Joe. Joe's really good at talking a bunch of smack and whatever. He doesn't want that fight. We're going to say yes to it. You know what I mean? I've been very honest about that, but he doesn't want to. He's not going to come to NEF. That fight has been offered a number of times. I know for a fact, and he's not going to come and do it. And here's the thing, money wise, JoJo's not going to sell as many tickets to come to NEF. So I get that. You know what I mean? He's coming to fight for his purse, and that's it. I'm positive on his hometown show, he sells an ass ton of tickets and makes a bunch of money. So I get that part of it. But at the end of the day, that's been offered. He said, no, I'm not coming up to Maine, blah, blah, blah. Well, you don't want the fight. That's it.
That'd be a banger of a regional fight. Greg, what is your take on it if it does happen?
I'd love to see it. As a fan, that's the fight I want to see. It sounds like Ryan and Primo, if you want to go somewhere, you say you're the best and let everybody challenge. He's open for the challenge for anybody, so throw somebody at him. Why not Joe Giannetti? Yeah,
exactly. Come get it. Come get it. It's easy. Say yes.
It's an open invitation, right?
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
regardless, what is next for Ryan? One thing's for certain: he always brings it. The fans love watching him compete. If he does fight again for NEF, I know the fans are going to be delighted to see him. But I feel like now's the time he really should take that next step. Can't wait to
Yeah.
see when he does compete next. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about Edwin Pena, another first round. Eric, this was a round 2 victory, TKO over Brandon
Yep.
Fevens. Which, guys, this was the toughest test that he's had yet, and he passed it with flying
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah, yeah. Brandon's a tough kid. I mean, he fought for the title not that long ago. I think he had a 4-4 record. Eddie came in at 2-2. So, both of them at 500, but Brandon has twice the amount of fights. You know what I mean? That's significant. And quite frankly, Brandon had fights against tougher opponents, high caliber opponents. He fought for the title, like I said. And so we knew this was going to be tough. And Brandon offers, he's gritty, throws a hard overhand left hand. I think he kind of relies on the overhand left a little too much. But some things that we could plan for. And, Eddie put a good camp in, working on the things they needed to, went out again, striking a little bit, good pace on Eddie now. He doesn't get in there and just blow his wad. He paces himself, knows that he can make contact. And Brandon was forcing the clinch. And whenever Eddie got into the clinch, he was like upper body wrestling with him instead of just pushing him off and breaking away. You know what I mean? And it was obvious that Brandon wanted to get the fight to the ground. So after that first round, which Brandon won, Eddie came back and he sat down. I looked at him and I go, "Hey, how about we stop fucking wrestling with this kid?" And he looked at me and I go, "Now say it back to me." And he shook his head and he goes, "Stop fucking wrestling with him." I was like, "Great idea. Let's do that." You know what I mean? Like, stop it. When this kid grabs you, push on his face, push off, and then get on striking again. And Eddie went right out, did exactly what he was supposed to do. And I mean, that kid hits hard. He's got, in my opinion, probably one of the best jabs in the amateurs in NEF right now. And if he hits you with it, it kind of changes your thought process.
And he's so long for this
Yep.
weight class. He's tall, he's long.
Yep.
Greg, you know who, and I didn't mention this on the broadcast, but it dawned on me afterwards. You know who Pena reminds me of? He reminds me of the amateur version of Anthony Vasta, the tall, long. Do you guys see that? Just as far as like their body type and
yeah.
Broad shoulders, lean.
Yep. What's the ceiling for this kid, Primo? Because he's won 3 in a row now.
He's won 3 in a row. And here's the best thing about Eddie is that, his first 2 fights, he lost. Then he won his next one. Then he won his next one. And, people are like, "Oh my God, you're doing so great." And in every interview that he's had, everything that he said, he literally says like, "Look, I'd like to eventually fight for the NEF title. I'd like to eventually go pro, but I know that I got a lot of things to work on." And that's really the key, man, is not projecting yourself further than you need to be. That kid can go as far as he wants to go. He really can, because he has the work ethic. And it's just a matter of time served and getting the repetitions. And, he can go as far as he absolutely wants to.
Can I jump in, man, real quick? When Eddie started, I remember his debut, and I recognized a fearlessness and a fast hands. Those 2 things, man. And I'm like, you keep your eye on this kid. He needed to slow down. He needed to mature into a couple of fights. But what I've really seen in the last 2 fights, because he recognizes him for the long term, because he's just putting the work in, like bringing his lunch pail to work, because he's got that in a few fights under him, he really seems to be progressing exponentially in the last 2 fights. The fight before this, I made a comment to Ryan. I said, that kid grew a lot. That kid is he's comfortable. He's not rushing. He's picking his shots. His hands are still very fast, and he has great jab. I think he's doing the work. It's great to see.
You know what, Greg?
He got better from last time.
You're absolutely right. He and he said it to me. That last fight, the one before this last one, he actually said to me, he had some moments where he hit the kid and the kid was up against the cage, and you saw Eddie go, let me take a step back and reset, because I know this kid wants to shoot on me. Let me take my time. And he got out of that fight and he said to me, he's like, "Coach, it's finally starting to slow down a little bit. Now I know, like, I can see things, I can take my time. And then this last fight, he said, Brandon had him down. I think Brandon might have had mount. If not, he had a good top control. And Eddie heard me say, "Hey, there's 30 seconds." And he said, this is the first time that I've really heard you, even in the chaos. And when you said 30 seconds, I remember I thought to myself in my brain, you're good. Go ahead. You can get through this. Let's just stay composed. We'll recoup. We'll come back out and we'll get on this kid. You know what I mean? He said, it's amazing as you get more experience, how much more things slow down for you, and you can think and evaluate, so he's really starting to get there.
He's definitely,
he needs another fight quickly.
Absolutely. And I feel like he's definitely going to be fighting for a title soon. If it's not in his next one, I feel like it is around the corner. Obviously, Primo, comes down to your say, but I think it's just an inevitability that will happen. Another amateur fighter that you have, Primo, that I'm very, very excited about. He moved to 3-0, Julian. And this was his toughest test, beating Jonas
totally
Ryerson. This kid is tough. I mean, he's in phenomenal shape. He came to fight early on. He kind of pushed back on Julian, but his wrestling, it was just the difference in that fight. Did you guys kind of know that going in against Jonas?
Yeah. And, so here's the thing, as a coach, I don't just accept a fight because we were given a name. You know what I mean? And I don't just accept a title fight because we were offered a title fight, right? Fights have to happen at the right time for guys. And that doesn't mean that I'm looking for easy fights, that my guy just keeps getting wins. What I'm looking for is the right tests at the right time, And what I needed from a fight for Julian was a guy that was going to try to kill him with everything he threw. And Jonas is that guy, no doubt about that. And so I didn't say this to Julian before the fight, but I've said it to him since when we were talking about it. I believe that Julian's first two opponents that he fought are potentially more skilled than Jonas, but not as good of fighters as Jonas is. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And although the other two guys that he beat by decision probably had a deeper skill set than Jonas was going to try to take his fucking head off with every punch he threw and every moment that he was in that fight. And I felt like Julian needed to deal with somebody like that. I felt that at the end, Julian's skill set was higher than Jonas's skill set, but I knew that he needed to deal with somebody coming across the cage and trying to take his block off. Deal with that little bit of fear, deal with that, like, holy cow, that punch was hard. I got to do something about this. And I'd been talking to Julian through his last few fights that Julian's hips are so good that he'll just ride guys. And okay, I'm on top, you move, I'll move, you move, I'll move, and he'll just kind of like surf guys. And if you think back in his last two fights, especially the Conor Morrow fight, he just kind of rode Conor and hit him and rode him here and hit him. And I've been working with Julian and saying, like, listen, you need to once you get your takedown, you need to hold a position. You need to get a strong position, hit on somebody a little bit, and you'll get finishes that way. But unless you're holding a position, you're not going to get finishes. And, Jonas kind of offered that puzzle to have to deal with. So it worked out really good for us.
Greg, from a coaching perspective, I mean, we've been right there watching Julian as he's, made evolution in every aspect of his game as a fighter here for NEF. What are you seeing out of him?
Yeah, it was a great step up in talent, and I think well prepared by his coach. I mean, I have to give you props. You know what you're dealing with. Ryerson's a high output fighter right off the bat. He's going to give you all his energy and everything. Looked like he was pretty disappointed. I think he had himself for the win in that one, but
sure.
Yeah. I mean, totally understandable. You got to go in confident.
Yeah. Nobody takes a fight that they think they're going to lose, right?
Yeah. And a well-executed game plan is what I really saw there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really pleased with Julian got started out a little rocky. Jonas came across through a calf kick that spun Julian, threw another calf kick that spun him halfway. And then I think he tried to cut underneath while Julian threw a straight kick. And then, Julian said, like, right after that, Jonas came in with a couple of hooks. I think might have double left hook, might have straight right left hook. I can't remember. And Julian said to me afterwards, he was like, "Coach, you've been preaching to me this whole camp that I got to keep my hands tight." And he was like, "Thank God, because that kid threw a left hook that caught my hand, and it drove my hand into my jaw enough where I was like, man, if my hand wasn't there, that would have been tough. That would have been trouble, So it was good. I was very, very proud of his performance.
Yeah, he was awesome. Great
No
to see
doubt. Can't wait to see him back in. Your big boy, Charles Sullivan, round 2 TKO victory over Daryl Andrews, man.
Ain't he fun? Ain't he fun?
Assess that one for me. How pleased are you?
Oh man, I was very pleased. Chainsaw, the kid's just a riot. You know what I mean? Like, he's a good dude. He's funny. We have a great time, and he's just one of those guys that, like, all during practices, you feel like he's just not listening to you. And then he goes and does what you tell him to do in a fight. It's wild. You know what I mean? Like, you get out there and, leading up, you're like, well, we'll see if he does what I've been telling him to do for 8 weeks, which I haven't seen him really doing. But if he does it, we're okay. And if he doesn't, we're probably fucked. And then he goes out and he does exactly what you tell him to do. We knew that, at least according to video, his opponent wants to get it on the ground, and obviously Chainsaw would like to keep things standing as best he can, So I was like, man, we worked on getting back up. We worked on, fighting takedowns from against the wall, against cage, things like that. And, lo and behold, that dude came across, and boy, he shot a blast double that just pretty much just speared Chainsaw. And that's a lot of weight. You know what I mean? We're looking at sub 600 pounds, just total getting slammed into the cage. So Chainsaw did great. You know what I mean? He managed to kick off, get back up, got taken down again, mostly because he lost balance. Got the reversal, started hitting the guy. According to Chainsaw, he said at the end of the first round, when he was on top and hitting him, he kind of saw his eyes roll from a couple of the punches. He said to me, he was like, I feel like if I had another 10 seconds to be hitting him, I might have got the stoppage there. So came back in between rounds, and Chainsaw is one of those dudes. He's super honest, And I was like, he took a deep breath, gave him some water, put some water on his head. How you feeling? He's like, he's stronger than me. And I was like, no, he's not. Just stop that, laughing. And so went back out, and guy obviously wanted to take down again, pushed Chainsaw against cage. And I was telling him, man, dig for the underhooks, get the underhooks. And he was just wailing on the kid's side, hitting him on the face. And a lot of situations when that happens, the guy manages to use that to pull your legs out, because you're not cinching your hips or getting underhooks. And I couldn't see the guy's head was on the other side of Chainsaw from me. And Chainsaw was hitting. I didn't realize Chainsaw had opened his hand and was hitting him with the palm, with the ball of his hand. And he said, he was like, I hit him a couple of times and it wasn't working. So I opened my hand and was hitting him with the palm on the temple. And he said, I hit him and I felt him kind of give a little bit and then grab me again. And I was like, oh, fuck it. So he just stayed on it and ended up getting the TKO.
Yeah, big win for him. And now he's 2-0 as an amateur. You told me before we started here today, Primo, that you won't have any guys on the next NEF card just because of scheduling conflicts. But what do you hope that we're going to see here from Vision Quest in 2024? Give me a preview of what you hope happens for your team.
I mean, obviously, I want to see the guys progressing. That's the key. You know what I mean? Overall, I got some guys in the pipeline that, are looking to get their first fights.
Or what is one of those guys? Is it Max Rogers?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan Sanders doesn't get enough credit for how funny he is, where he just kind of
Oh my God.
randomly drops in Max Rogers. Like I don't know
Hilarious.
who the guy is. I'm still waiting to see him fight. So I'm assuming
He's
he
on the
has to be
team,
one
been
of them.
training for a little while. We tried to get him on, I think, the last 2 shows, and couldn't get a match 2 shows ago. This show couldn't get a match either. It's wild. 185 pounds. But the or no, yeah, 185 pounds. But what I'm finding is that, like, oh, we got a guy at 185, but he's had 5 fights. I'm not putting my debut guy in against the guy with 5 fights.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it just hasn't worked out to get the kid a match. Hopefully, obviously February we won't fight. Whenever the next NEF is, obviously his name will go in as long as he's healthy. And hopefully he'll have a good debut. Hopefully all the guys that are presently fighting just continue to progress, continue to get better. And like I said, wins are great, finishes are even better. But I want to see that the guys are progressing, that they're becoming better fighters. I can more take a good loss than I can a bad win a lot of the time, like you get in there and get some stupid win that either you didn't deserve or you didn't do anything that we worked on. That's like, okay, great. We got to win, move on. But you go out there and you have a tough fight that we did all the things that we worked on, and just the other guy was better on that day and he wins. I almost prefer that sometimes, just because I know that my guys are getting better and they're going to be ready for the next challenge.
It's all about growth,
Yes.
At this level, It's all about growth. You make it
Yeah.
about the money, it's got to be about development and growth. So
Yes.
yeah, 100%.
Greg, is there anything else you want to ask Primo before we get him out of here?
No, just appreciate the perspective, getting inside your head there. It's awesome. I
Thanks,
love
bud.
everything I'm hearing too, man. So keep up the great work. Congrats on the 4 victories and finishes, man.
Thanks.
Good work. Look forward to seeing you
Thanks.
next time.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Was this the highlight of Vision Quest Muay Thai so far since you've opened?
I think it has to be, and I knew it was coming. It takes, in my opinion, it takes a solid year of opening the gym to like get like some consistent fighters. And that's just consistent fighters training, and I feel like it takes a solid 2 years to like get a good base of guys, and guys are doing the right things. They're doing the right things in training. They're doing the right things in fights. And then, you gotta kind of build a culture of winning. And we've had a number of fights in the last year or so, and we've won a couple, we've lost a couple. We'll have a night where we win 2 and we lose 1, or we go 1-1 and things like that. And my thing is like, I don't believe Vision Quest isn't a 500 team ever, and that means we're certainly not a losing team. And so it takes a little while. So we needed a couple of those where, we had some wins and we had some losses to get to the point where we could have like a real showing out, where all the guys went out. They not only won, but they did really well. And I feel like all of our guys fought quality opponents and they fought fair fights. There was none of the matches were like, oh, this is so lopsided. You know what I mean? Like they were all good, fair fights that our guys came out on top of, which was nice for us.
Well, couldn't be any happier for you and the team at Vision Quest, Primo. Again, it's always a pleasure talking to you, man. Thank you for jumping on and joining us here today. Before we cut you loose, though, I want to give you the floor. I'm sure there's plenty of things that you want to plug, like your gym, the address, and all that. So the floor is yours, bud.
Thanks, brother. So super easy. Primo Bellarosa on Facebook and Instagram. Vision Quest _Muay_Thai on Facebook and Instagram. We're right over in Pittsfield, right off the highway. Super easy. 418 in Pittsfield. VisionQuestMuayThai.com. Shout out. I'm not going to name everybody, but shout out to all my fighters. And all our students. that you know, come in and you know, they're just learning Muay Thai. They're learning grappling and enjoying themselves and getting healthy. And it makes for a really good atmosphere. We've got a lot of good fighters, and a great time is had, and we've got a lot of good regular students, and a great time's had with them. Shout out to my wife who gave me this phenomenal new haircut. So, you know,
Looks good. Everything
yeah.
looks good. Everything's going well for you guys. Again, Primo, we look forward to seeing you back at not the next NEF event, but the one after that.
All right. Thanks, brother. Be
See you
safe.
guys. All right, and here he is. Here's our second guest of the NEF 55 post show, Jeremy Tyler, the head coach and owner of Titan Athletics, who went 3-0 on the night. Jeremy, I mean, congratulations. First off, I want to start with the comeback of the night, which clearly was Miles Emery. I feel like, you know, he had to have known, you had to have known he needed to get a finish there in that third round if he was going to get his hand raised. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. And hats off to Abdul, because he came out with a great performance. You know, not to say anything negative, but honestly, his boxing was not something we were terribly worried about going into it. You know, it was kind of wild, and he came out throwing some crisp jabs, and we're like, okay, so showing a lot of improvement from his first fight. And then he hit a sprawl too. Very good sprawl. And obviously he's been working with Josh Harvey a bit. So yeah, going into that third round, we told Miles we needed him to double up on his jab. We needed him to close the distance and take him down. And he did just that, you know, and the guillotine honestly came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that at all. So it was a great performance by him.
Greg, I'm sure you have something. We were talking a lot about that fight afterwards. What were your initial takeaways? What do you have for questions for the coach?
I think Miles really persevered through that fight, because Abdul was really, like you said, his jab. I didn't know. I never saw him fight before. Like, I didn't see how sloppy it was, but Ryan and I talked quite a bit about the reach. He had a reach advantage, and he was establishing that jab. And if he could do that the whole fight, you know, Miles' right hand is going to be short, you know, because he's keeping the base. So, you know, that was something we really recognized. And I think the adjustments and how Miles persevered through everything and stuck with it. And, you know, he showed his heart on Veterans Day, how much heart he has. And that was inspiring to see, because that was not a layup. That was adversity thrown his way. And like a warrior, he fought through it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I should clarify, I don't want to say it's sloppy. He throws a lot of like uppercuts and kind of punches out of nowhere, you know, in his previous fight against Charles Sullivan. So just kind of watching that barrage back, and then, you know, knowing he used to box out of Thunder Pig, which is associated with Titan Athletics. So I've done rounds with him before, and Miles has previously boxed against him. So we kind of were going off of what we had seen with him before. But yeah, he came out and kind of surprised us. So
yeah, and so that was something that was really interesting to me too, Jeremy, because I talked to Miles leading into the fight, and they had that boxing match previously that Abdul won. Did Miles, you know, how did he feel, I guess, from your point of view going into this, I guess, rematch, even though it's a different aspect of combat sports?
So he felt pressure for sure. You know, he had told me before that he believed he could have won the boxing match. He just gassed out. So Miles been putting in an incredible amount of work, you know, doing HIIT workouts with us, just trying to get that cardio up, doing, you know, consistently 10 5-minute rounds on the weekends with us every Saturday. He put in all the work, you know, that he needed to build that part of it. So that wasn't really a concern of ours. We knew he could go the distance. And the big thing was getting him out of his head. So he's somebody who, when you hit him, he bites down on his mouthpiece and comes forward. You know, it's kind of trying to get him to be a smarter fighter, picking his shots and kind of calculated as he goes forward. So all camp long, that's something we did to him. We tried to you know, elicit that response from him and get him so that he had to stay collected, and he did just that night. So I was very impressed with him.
Post fight, I mean, he was so happy. He was freaking out, running around, screaming. Like, has anybody ever noticed before? Because I mentioned this during the broadcast. He looks just like Juggernaut. He looks like Juggernaut. That should be his nickname.
Once he gets going, that's for sure. He doesn't stop. So yeah, He was incredible, man. I love his energy. It's infectious. He brings that into the gym day in and day out, and I absolutely love having it.
Yeah, that was he was emotional and pumped up after his fight. And usually you see fighters like 5 minutes later, they're just hanging out, having a beer or something. He was pumped up for the entire night.
Yeah,
He went like it was one thing after another. His energy levels were off the charts for sure.
yeah. I have so much respect for him, man. He reached out to us. He had gotten lined up for a fight as an independent and asked us if we would, take him in and let him train with us. So that's kind of the backstory on it, a quick one. And he was driving like over an hour and a half after working full shifts and putting in 2 hours of training at night. And eventually we Shark Tanked him and welcomed him onto the team. And he's continued to show up. He's there for his teammates all the time. He is just truly an incredible human being, and he went through a lot of stuff in his personal life this year. So getting that victory was just such a sweet moment to see for him.
Yeah, it's definitely a good feeling to see for him to get this win. Another guy, Jeremy, that I felt really good for was Brandon Oldenburg. He gets that elusive first victory, round one TKO victory over George PC Mises. And man, he made short work of him. He came in and he hit him with a big shot, and he didn't stop until the ref pulled him off. I mean, is that what you guys thought going into this fight with an older guy, George, who's 51?
So yeah, and we knew that would be a discussion for people. George is no slouch. He's got a lot of years of experience in martial arts. Highly ranked judo practitioner. So the focus going into the camp was keeping distance. We wanted George nowhere on the inside of Brandon. He's worked a ton on being able to get back up when he's taken down. I think the most important thing with Brandon that a lot of people don't look at is who he's fought for opponents. He went against two guys back to back. Brian, who came out of our gym, even though that was a controversial stoppage, Brian's a collegiate level athlete, highly decorated linebacker. I mean, just a phenomenal specimen. And then he went right into the current, now NEF middleweight champion, Brett Martin, and then Logan Bond. And he asked for the Logan fight. The second that DJ and him finished the fight, he messaged me and he's like, "Hey, coach, what do you think about this fight?" I said, "I love it. I think that's a great challenge for you." So being 0-3 against three very, very well-versed, martial artists, I think, it doesn't do him justice. So when we went into this fight, we told him, just trust in your striking. You've got all the pieces to the puzzle. You just got to put it together on fight night, trust in what you can do, and be smart. And he did, landed that first right hand, and he knew immediately. So
Yeah, he looked really great in that fight. Made, again, short work of George, first round TKO. And I'm all about nicknames. If I can help give nicknames to people, I'm going to do the best that I can. Add a little humor into things. I mentioned Juggernaut for Miles, and Brandon. I shook his hand before the event started, and I called him Banana Hands because it literally was like a baseball mitt grabbing my hand. He's got enormous hands.
Yeah.
Is that something that like you guys have just known? I mean, if he closes that hand and makes a fist, that's a large amount of realty to connect with someone.
Yeah, he hits like a freight train, man. Like, I mean, even when he's, being good with teammates, like when you're in around with Brandon, like he can kick like a mule, and then his right hand's just money. So just telling him you got to trust in your weapons. His ground game's improving all the time. He's learning to get up and all that. But yeah, he's an incredible person, man.
All right. And Ed Davis makes his pro debut, 1-0, and he sure looked like a pro in there. Again, quick work of James Lawson, ultimately gets the neck, RNC victory. Was that the game plan here, or did you want Ed to stand and strike a little bit?
Honestly, I thought he was going to put on kind of a master class of striking. I mean, he's somebody who will stand there all day long and trade. And afterwards, I asked him because we wanted him to mix in some takedowns just to kind of show that he can do it. It was something he didn't capitalize on in the Biagio fight, and even the Pufal fight. You know, he had some opportunities where we felt he could have possibly taken them down. So we wanted him to kind of at the end of the round hit some things like that in, but so I asked him afterwards, and he said, "Coach, you know, I felt stuck in the mud and I just couldn't get it going." So he felt the exchange between him and Lawson, felt that he could handle him well. So the kind of threw him into the fence, and that came out of nowhere. He saw the neck and he's like, you know, I just took the victory, which again, smart fight, you know, get in, get out as quick as possible, no injuries. So.
And Greg, I'm sure you have plenty to ask Coach Tyler about Ed, who we're both very, very high on.
Yeah, I think, you know, everybody's dangerous. Lawson can throw a punch. I mean, he did the right thing, got smart. If he was having a rough time, I mean, it's about winning at the end of the day, especially at the pro, you know, like the amateur is over. So, you know, winning is priority, and good for him to see that in the moment. Looks like he's getting a lot of good experience. Does he need more seasoning? I mean, obviously first pro fight, but you know, what do you picture next for him?
Honestly, I mean, I would love to have him face Kyle Pufal again. That was a great fight. I think there's always areas to improve, and that's something we're constantly working on. You know, we do a lot of situational stuff, just trying to drill the areas where we feel and it goes obviously based on specific fight camps. We'll always break down kind of the footage of our opponents, and then I get in there, I try to emulate their opponents as best ability that I can. And so yes, Ed is constantly improving, and we're constantly working on little things, you know, now obviously finding ways to incorporate the elbows more and stuff that he's at the professional level, a lot of the clinch stuff, you know, get ground game stuff, that trying to get everybody to the level that we know they're capable of down there. So yeah.
Yeah, the Pufal fight would be a real fan favorite. I like that.
Yeah, and obviously we want that Biagio fight back too. So we're hoping he fights in like 8 days. I think it's like next weekend. He's going to do one more amateur fight from what we understand. And then hopefully when he makes that pro debut, we can, you know, try to get one of those first couple fights with him back. So
sign me up for both rematches. Absolutely. Jeremy, what is Ed's ceiling, right? I mean, that's a tough question, right? Because he just made his pro debut, but you see him in the gym every day. You see his work ethic. You see how much he wants this. How far can he take it?
Oh, I think the sky's the limit for him. Ed is one of those people. So I named him captain of the team. And that's something we've never done before, but Ed leads by example. So he comes into the gym at 4 a.m. every day, goes and works a full day. Sometimes he might drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to work a full day, drive 2 hours back, and still train another session at night. And that's minimum. That's just everyday life for him. He also does this while maintaining, being a dad, being a husband, which is very important to us at our gym. You know, we're very family oriented there. So the fact that he's able to kind of put all of these pieces in place and still be at the level that he's at, I mean, I can't even imagine if he could fully dedicate himself to training where he could potentially go. And we have a couple fighters like that, man. Devin Corson's another one who, you know, if he could ever just fully dedicate himself to the sport and training, I mean, you would have two guys who I would see in the UFC, you know, Bellator, PFL, wherever they wanted to be, really one championship, you know.
Hey, I would say one thing about Ed Davis, like all those things you said, how hard he trains, getting up early in the morning, all that. Is he always the nice guy that I always see him as? Because if I had that schedule, I'd be miserable to everybody. I'd be like snapping it. He seems like so happy and at peace doing what he's doing, putting his energy where he's putting it, and really happy. I mean, is that who he is, or is that just what I see on game night?
No, he smiles, man, all the time. Before we walk out, I'm like, "How you doing?" Just great, coach. Just smiling, just ready to do business. I think the only time you'll see a serious face on him is right when he's about to fight. You know, he goes into fight mode, and as soon as it's done, he's just as amped up and smiling backstage. He brings that to the gym too. Him and Miles. I mean, the team is just incredible, and they don't just show up for just the fight team too. I mean, for our regular members, they're in there doing hit workouts with them, encouraging these guys. Some people have no desire to fight, they just want to be, working out, hitting the bag, learning some techniques, and they're in there getting everybody amped up for, all of those workouts too. So yeah, it's great.
Great to see. I got one more thing to say, and that's, it's rare to find somebody that'll put that type of work in. It's more than rare. It's special to find somebody with that hard work ethic and the attitude that he brings. It's infectious when this positivity is in the training area when things get hard. So yeah, he's a special guy, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Jeremy, if that Biagio fight wasn't stopped early, like it clearly was in the second round, what do you think we would have seen in round 3?
So obviously when they stopped it, Ed had the underhook. He was starting to work his way back up. Mentally, I mean, Biagio is an incredible fighter, but having somebody consistently be able to take your shots and get back up, that does eat away at you. And he's fast, man. Like when we watched his footage, we were almost certain that it had been sped up a little bit. Like, I mean, he looks so fast. And then that first combination he threw, we all kind of just were like, oh no, he really is that fast with his hands. But I felt like Ed was starting to listen in the second round. We were really working that quick 1-3 to get him to the outside and win that foot fight, being southpaw and orthodox. I do feel like Ed would have been able to start to capitalize. We kind of knew going into it, if it went to a decision, it wasn't the good place to go to a decision. But I do think Ed could have got through a third round with him for sure. And Ed's another one, man. When he hits you with that left hand, it. I mean, he hits very hard, even when he's not trying to. So who knows? That's why we'd love the rematch. Biagio knows it was stopped early.
Yeah,
everybody knows it was stopped a little early. So we'd love to see that run back.
I think everyone would love to see that run back. You mentioned Devin Corson. I have to tell you, man, and I think I said this during the broadcast, I wholeheartedly mean this. His performance in beating David Burke is one of the best regional performances I've ever had the pleasure of calling, pro or amateur. That was freaking amazing what he did and just how good he looked. Yeah. I mean, he's always been a great wrestler and he's always been a strong guy and a lot of power, right? But there's clearly been some serious evolution in his game over his last couple of fights. What can you point towards, Jeremy, as to how that evolution, how it happened?
He's believing in himself. Devin, when you watch a lot of his fights, and like you said, he goes right to wrestling. It's what he knows. And when you can dominate people, take them down pretty much at will, it's really easy to kind of revert back to that. But he can strike. And he is he's basically our regional version of like a Michael Chandler. He's so explosive, so fast, and just pound for pound is the strongest human being I have ever grappled with, ever wrestled with, struck with. I mean, he is truly incredible. And again, it's building, he's building all the time. And in that fight, he kept throwing the 1-2 and then getting right into the takedown with him. I actually told him, I was like, Devin, if you throw that 1-2, take a lateral step and throw another cross, I think you're going to knock this kid out. And, that was kind of the game plan going into the next round, but unfortunately it didn't quite get that far. I honestly thought he broke David's orbital socket. Apparently he didn't. It hit hard enough that it did significant damage. But you could see that first punch, I believe is the second round, when he hit, I mean, everybody knew that was a hard shot. So
yeah, the kid's terrifying, man. When is he going to fight next? And what are you expecting for him as far as that transition to pro? Is it going to happen soon?
I leave that decision up to the guys. I think Devin could go anytime as far if he wanted to. He's been training a long time. I would say he obviously wants to defend the belt. He's expressed that, but he's also interested in collecting another promotions belt at welterweight. So we'd keep him up there for now. As far as I don't know if it will be the NEF card or, maybe Cage Titans or something like that. He's expressed interest both ways. I would say beginning of the year at some point. He was healing up after his last fight, and he's back in the gym now training. So yeah, I would say probably February-ish of next year.
Greg, what are your thoughts on Devin Corson? I mean, you were right there cage side. You witnessed that right there with me. I mean, I'm having to imagine that you're as high on him as I am.
Oh yeah, I mean, obvious athleticism and, like you said, unnatural strength. Like abnormal strength for somebody his size. I mean, he's a force to be reckoned with. Take the toughest fights you can, the biggest platforms you can right now. He seems to be peaking. So get him those tough fights. He's ready for him. His confidence. I've seen that growth and confidence in the Burke fight. We know what that can do to build on the confidence even more. So, as long as he keeps his head together and just keep growing bit by bit, man, I mean, you will see him get another title.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
The thing that does it for me with that win over Burke is who the opponent was. Like, David Burke is legit. He's clearly got a lot of power. He's a well-rounded fighter. He's a great wrestler. He's a great striker. So for Devin to do what he did, that's what just makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, man, when Burke came out in the David McCarthy fight and just took him down, we were expecting that in this fight, him to showcase his wrestling, knowing that Devin could wrestle. We thought there would be kind of that exchange of who's the better wrestler. So all camp long, we kind of just told him, you got to trust in your striking, establish that first and then go in there and prove that you can take him down, because anybody who's been hit by Devin knows you don't want to stand there and take that for you can't take it for too long. So we told him, mix it up and then look for the takedown, but trust in your striking first. And he did. So
yeah, I can't wait to see him back in the cage next, whenever that may be. Jeremy, talk a little bit about just the evolution of Titan Athletics, your gym. It just seems like it keeps growing and growing. I mean, I've even heard rumbles from, I think it was Ed that was telling me that you've outgrown the space that you have now, so you might be looking for a new space. So just tell me a little bit about how happy you are with where you're at right now in your gym.
Oh man, I never could have pictured this. When we first started, when Marcus left, all those years ago, we were Team Irish. I mean, we were, a handful of members and just persistently kept training, and slowly the numbers built and built. And then we had the opportunity to move into the bigger space that we're in now. And I mean, now we're already, we're 30 people deep every night in each class. Some of the grappling classes too are getting up in those numbers, and even more than that on some nights. So yeah, we definitely need a bigger space again, at some point. But I think the growth comes from the atmosphere. We have a standard at our gym. We're very particular about making sure that you're bringing good energy, you're positive people. You're staying up to par outside of the gym. That's we will never, kind of allow, like, if you have assault charges, domestic violence, like, we don't allow that in our gym. And then just the coaching, we have, my wife, Sadie, a lot of people don't realize how involved she is. So I've been in nursing school. So on Thursdays, she's been running my classes for me, but she's actually been cornering me since 2013. And so every fight camp, we start off, and we break down the footage of the opponents, and we translate that into the gym. Like I said, I try to emulate those opponents, and then we put together a game plan, and people just see that involvement, and then the continued growth of the fighters. We all show up for each other. Devin, all fight camp, didn't have a fight, was showing up to do rounds. Jordan Denley, coming in, holding pads for people. And again, the big thing that we do is we're encouraging everyone. So it doesn't matter if you're a fighter. If you came into my gym today, I'm going to give you the same amount of attention as I am one of the active fighters in the striking class. And I think that's well, reciprocated from the people. They kind of just, they give just as much as we give to them. And that's why, it continues to grow.
Yeah, very happy for you, man. So does that mean maybe there's a chance that you're going to fight again?
So right now I'm in nursing school. I would love to, honestly. It's one of those fires that stays, inside of you all the time. Every time I'm there on a fight night, of course, that's something that does. If I do, it would be more of a timing thing. You know, next semester I'll have to figure out where my clinicals are going to be, what days they're on, and things like that. You know, we don't have the luxury of just skipping a clinical day, or, you know, not showing up for my preceptorship or something like that. But, you know, I'll always be there for the guys. That's the most important part. I'll always give them the good rounds and stuff. But, you know, I do think that I would love to do a pro fight eventually here and just, you know, have that checked off. So
How old are you now?
36, turned
Oh,
36.
you're just a
year.
baby. You're just a
Yeah.
baby. You got all kinds of time.
Right.
Tell him, Greg, you know.
Yeah, I fought at 46, man. You got another 10 years in you.
Right. That's at least until 40. So
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Hey,
I
man,
feel
you
great
know,
too.
kudos to you and your coaching staff for setting the example of good moral character, hard work ethic, and, you know, keeping the vibe good. It's showing in all the work. And 3-0, that's a reflection of the coach setting the atmosphere. You know, it's good to see your school's growing, man. Keep up
Yeah,
the great
thank
work.
you very much.
Yeah, very happy for you, Jeremy. We appreciate you jumping on here today, recapping NEF 55. Again, congratulations to your team. What a great night for Titan Athletics. Before we put a bow on the show here today, I want to give you the floor. I'm sure you want to plug your gym, tell them the address where they can find you on social media and all that. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, just Titan Athletics. Just, you know, I want to thank everyone who continues to come and support the gym, support all of the fighters. You know, we truly appreciate it and couldn't do it without them.